Hey, how's it going? So, I have never had a proper 9 to 5. I've never been a proper employee of anybody. I think I've been quite lucky in this regard. I was homeschooled for for a large part of my schooling. Even when I was going to real school, I was also simultaneously homeschooled. So, we moved around a lot when I was younger. Um, my father was lecturing in Saudi Arabia, for instance, um, and we were also, back and forth between Saudi Arabia and New Zealand, where we had immigrated. And during the time that we were in Saudi Arabia, I studied in a private school in Saudi Arabia where I was learning in the Arabic curriculum and so on. And at the same time, my father had enrolled me and my sisters in the New Zealand correspondence school, so I was actually studying both systems simultaneously. And we were, I was good at keeping up with both schools, and the load was pretty tough in the Arabic school because from a very young age that you get lots of a stack of books that you got to basically memorize in various subjects. I mean, I think there's so many can't even count them. But anyway, so I did homeschooling for a large part of my time. Even we moved to Malaysia later on, and I did the British system for I don't know half a year, and then my dad pulled me out of the school because it was kind of a crappy experience. And also the British. The British system, the at the time at least the O levels and A levels was just yeah, those were not fun. That was not a good time. But my father decided to pull me out of school, and he hired private tutors for me, and I finished the curriculum that the kids were doing over like 2 years in a single month, like for mathematics, and then another month for physics. It was like the 2 years worth of curriculum I was finishing in that period of time. So it worked out better this way. Studying at home, for me, it's not suitable for everybody. Okay. But for me was a really good thing because for most of school, I was bored. When I got to study from home, I got to pick the subjects that I liked, and I spent all the time that I would, for instance, I'd just sit down, okay, you know what, physics, and I just mash through the year's worth of physics in like a month. And then, I move on to mathematics. Okay, so I'm going to do calculus, and again, like get through the entire, so I just paced myself at the pace that made sense to me, that I liked. And it was really good doing it that way. I was able to also advance several classes. I finished high school. I finished year 13 when I was 16 years old. So this was all really cool. It was a good experience. But it also meant that I never got used to having that institutionalized. There's this. You got to turn up at a certain time. You got to go home at a certain time. You got to eat lunch at a certain time. There's somebody watching you, monitoring you, telling you what to do. I took care of myself. I taught myself. I did all that stuff when I was younger, and then when it came time to so even for university, a large part of my university education was also done from home. So I enrolled in an extramural program. Initially, I was young, and my father was not in favor of sending. So he was living in Oman at the time, and he was not in favor of sending me away on my own. He was like really worried that I'm going to go and I'm going to mess up my life. So he enrolled me, or had me enrolled in an extramural program, which meant that I could study at the same university that you can attend in person, but I could just take those classes from home. And many students were opting to do that because they were also working as well, and so they would be doing a part-time course. and that kind of thing. So I did even university this way, is my point. When I finished university, I got my bachelor's degree, and I used to, so in the last year, I couldn't finish everything in my final year of university in this way. And so I went to New Zealand. And when I finished up, I came back so my dad would have me fly for most of the time that I was in New Zealand. He'd have me fly back and forth, spend holidays back with them. And so I was there on holiday, and I thought, I'm gonna go and get myself a job. And I had these great fantasies about what I was gonna get in terms of a job and how much money I was gonna make, and how, because I'd been doing all this programming from a young age, and I was pretty good at this. So, I had plenty of experience. Like, why shouldn't I be paid well? Of course, I didn't know that nobody would value that when it came to the employment. So I went and applied to several jobs, and I got an interview, right? So I went down to this interview. It was in Dubai, and we were in my father's work was in Sharjah, which is quite close. It was a different city, but it was close enough. So he drove me down, went to the interview. I'm all dressed up in my suit. I turned up over there, and I said to them, hey, what's up? And we did our interview, and I had my computer with me, and I demonstrated all the software I'd written, and I was, pretty impressive. Then they started talking to me about pay. Well, not about pay. They started asking, they're sort of dancing around the subject, and they were like saying, so do you live in Dubai or what? I was like, no, my family live in Sharjah, and I assumed that, I would be, I thought I'd be getting housing as part of the deal. They said to me, yeah, a lot of the people who work with us, they end up doing sharing a flat or something, because Dubai rents are quite high. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? How low is this pay? How crappy is this job? And they start talking about, work hours and so on. I'm like, wow, that's some really rubbish hours. It's a lot of that's long hours. They better be paying good for it, And I didn't ask the question, never done a real interview before, didn't know how to do one, never, this is my first time doing a real job interview. And for some reason, the interview didn't conclude there. We were supposed to meet again. I don't know if it was supposed to be on the same day or a different day, I forget. But my dad had a colleague, or there's a vendor that they dealt with at the university labs would deal with it. And he was in software. He sold software, and he also worked in Dubai. So we popped in to visit this guy after the interview. My dad said to him, oh, yeah, my son was just doing an interview with these guys, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, those guys. Yeah, oh, okay, I know them. And so I was like, well, how much, what do they pay? What do they pay like? Do you have any idea? And he was like, oh, I think and he said some really ridiculously low number. So the minute we got back, I was like, yeah, okay, fuck this. I'm not going to waste my time with any of this shit. I'm going to get a master's degree. I applied to the master's program in New Zealand, and I was back there by the new semester. I finished my master's degree, and at this point I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a PhD. I'm not even gonna bother trying to find a job like this. I'm not gonna make enough money for it to be worth my while. I'm just gonna get a PhD, and then, and that's actually what happened. I went and I applied to the program, and I had the letters of recommendation. I had a supervisor all lined up, a project, everything is all good. And I went back for holiday in Sharjah, and my flatmate, who was a German guy, also studying computer science, he forwarded me an email from a German lecturer of ours. Funny that there were so many Germans in New Zealand, and now I'm a New Zealander in Germany. So our German, and I hated this guy. I hated the teacher. I hated the class. The class was just so, oh my goodness, I can't begin to tell you how boring listening to this guy lecture was. I couldn't stay awake in his class, honestly. But anyway, there was an email he forwarded. There was a guy who was looking for somebody that's kind of like, I guess my flatmate thought that's kind of up this guy's alley. It was like computational linguistics stuff. That was my area of interest. So I went ahead and I applied, and I wasn't really serious about it for some reason. I don't remember. I don't know why. So the guy had agreed with me that he would come and meet me in Auckland. He lived in a small city in the South Island. He was an American guy. He had done some really incredible things he'd worked with Xerox before, and he'd had his own, he'd done some pretty cool stuff like machines for the blind and stuff like that. It was really cool. And he was really connected in the industry too. I didn't know all this at the time, obviously, and so he sent me I remember he sent me a photo of himself so I could recognize him at the airport. I picked him up, took him down to Mission Bay for lunch, and we did the interview. And he asked me. At one point, it was clear that he was interested in hiring me, and he asked me about the salary. And for some reason, I wanted to sabotage this. I don't know why. I don't remember why I wanted to sabotage it. I wanted him to say no, and I thought that if I asked for a high enough number, he's going to tell me no, and then that would be the end of it. I wouldn't have to do this thing. I think I was just committed to the PhD thing, and I was like, yeah, probably going to just do that. So when he asked me the salary, now I had a problem. I want to tell him a high number where he's going to tell me no, but I didn't want it to be such a high number that I'll sound like an idiot. So, I could say, oh, I want $1 million. And then, yeah, he's going to say, fuck off. And you're a crazy psycho. Like, what the hell are you thinking? So I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be, a high number that was still sort of reasonable. And the objective was to get him to say no and to move on to another candidate. That was my plan. For some reason, I thought that was the way to do it. So I said to him, 60,000. He says, done. And I'm like, what the fuck? So let me tell you the reasoning behind the 60,000, because 60,000 doesn't seem like a high enough number. But here's the thing. Fresh out of university, engineers, so electrical engineers, electronic engineers, fresh out of university, they were looking at getting around about 50,000. And they were considered on the upper end of what you would make. Fresh out of university. And this is at the time. I don't know what it's like now. Computer science, on the other hand, which is what I specialized in, would get between 35 to 38,000. That was kind of the baseline. Now, given I had a master's degree, perhaps that counted for something. I know that your experience counts for much more than the degree, typically in the job market. But let's suppose it counted for something. I still didn't think that anybody would swing to 60. And he was like, done. And I was like, fuck. Later on, I found out that he was actually looking to pay 80. He thought that was what he expected to pay, rather. And so I actually got a little bit shortchanged on the deal, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so the thing about this job, which was cool, and the only job I ever had, right, was that he gave me the choice. He said, you could come and work out of my home office, and he had a beautiful house on the top of a mountain in the South Island, one of the most beautiful spots in the country. Beautiful, beautiful place. I got to tell you, it was just absolutely amazing. The view from there was just absolutely stunning. Anyway, so he offered me to work out of his home office. Or if I wanted, I could work from my home and get compensation for like internet and whatever other expenses I had. So I chose to work from home, and that's what I did. So I never had a boss. I had a boss. I never had a boss who was like breathing down my neck, ensuring that I was working from 9 to 5, that I was actually, micromanaging everything. I made my own hours. I decided what I wanted to work on. In the general direction of the project. We published papers. I gave them an update once a month about, what was going on. I showed them where we're up to. It was a research programming job. I got to fly to conferences at the job's expense. I I even got to go to Switzerland. It was a beautiful trip as well. Also for a conference that I did. And so it was actually it was quite a neat gig. It was actually really nice. After this, I went and tried again with the PhD. So I never started it the first time around. I just got everything sorted and then never, finalized it. Funny enough, my supervisor at the time, when he heard about the job offer, he was like, "Holy shit, that's more than I got when I first started working at the university with a PhD." So even more encouragement for me to get on board with that job. Anyway, so I went off later on and did a. So the next part was when I started to do a PhD in Australia. Now, the problem was that I had to do this, I had a scholarship to do it. And when somebody's giving you money, you owe them something. Okay, that's the problem. When somebody's paying you, you owe them and you have to keep them happy. And so these guys, my supervisors there, were just breathing down my neck. They didn't give me the opportunity to do what I was used to doing, which is not to have a whole lot of management on top of me, to just do my thing. As long as I'm producing results, like, what do you care? Nope, they needed me to turn up to the Monday meeting 8 o'clock in the morning and yawn through the snooze fest of guys just sitting, unprofessional presenters, just rambling on way over time, getting super technical about things that I honestly couldn't care less about. There's all these different things. And then there was like a meeting with them where I had to sit down and talk. And one of the things that I cannot stand is talking about the project when I could be working on the project. That just drives me insane. And I know in business environments, this is like the thing. The status reports, update reports, weekly report, monthly report, what fucking reports, man. And I heard Elon Musk talking about this. He was saying that there's just too many MBAs in business. There's too many meetings, board meetings, people sitting around board meetings talking about numbers and money, and not actually, like, you need to be on the floor. You need to be on the factory floor. You need to be, right there listening to what your customers need. And I totally believe in that. I think that you should be, getting your hands dirty, doing the business, whether it's creating the products or interacting with the customers, understanding what is going on, understanding what your employees' needs are. You need to be involved, right? And there's just too much of this. I think that, like, one of the things that would drive me mad in a 9 to 5 is that micromanagement, that you need to turn up at a certain time, that you got to leave at a certain time, that somebody is monitoring everything that you're doing all the time. And you're constantly threatened that if you don't do this or you don't do that, there's a problem. And there's reports. Those things just, they seem like the biggest waste of time. And yet it's like, this is what it means to be to be employed, unfortunately. And that, honestly, that just drives me absolutely, that would drive me absolutely nuts. So I'm really grateful that, I have the freedom to build a business the way that I want. That doesn't mean I don't like work, by the way. I know a lot of people, they think that it's attractive to build a business from home because they think that it means sitting around all day and taking it easy. They think it means that you're going to sit on the beach or holiday or whatever, but actually, nobody works harder than a home-based entrepreneur, because at least the ones that are actually real, because you have to work hard. The fact that you are working, that you're your own boss, that you are self-employed, that you get to manage your own hours. It's only that the only thing that you can do is to basically say, hey, you know what? I don't feel like working today. I'm not going to. And so you don't. But that's just like, you basically don't need to, you can't cheat yourself, right? You can do this 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. At some point, it's going to catch up to you and you're going to pay the price. And that's, I think, what a lot of people don't get. That when you are self-employed, it doesn't mean that you get to have it, you take it easy. It just means that you answer to yourself. Now, you should demand more of yourself because you are self-employed, because this is your company, this is your business. And if you don't do that, if you don't demand more of yourself, if you're not asking yourself to perform every day, to bring work to the table, to get results. And by the way, you could work all day long. Like, you can put in the hours, but if it doesn't bring in the money, what you did is useless. It's pointless. I mean, it's not pointless necessarily, it might be, but what I mean to say is that at the end of the day, just putting in the hours is not enough to bring in the money. You have to actually do money-making activities, things that generate revenue, so that you can actually make money, so that you can actually get paid. I mean, unlike at a job where you could probably coast for quite a while on doing work that is not actually bringing in any money. Just I'm working on the report for I don't know what. It doesn't bring in money, but you're working on the report. You're in a meeting, you're in board meetings, you're in such and such meetings, things that don't necessarily bring in any extra money. They don't actually, nobody really benefits from it. But it's hours worked, and so nobody's going to say, and you're submitting all the deliverables that they're asking you to deliver, whether they make money or not. You're doing your part, and so if you're doing that, then you get paid. But that's not how it works when you're a home-based entrepreneur. Plus, if you have employees, they count on your business bringing in money so that they can get paid. Like, it's not, nobody who's employed under you has taken on the risk with you. They shouldn't have to be subjected to the same risk that you have, because you know what you bargained for. You decided to invest into a company, into a business, and to take that chance that you're going to invest money and time and maybe get nothing in return. But they didn't. They have a deal with you that I'm going to work for this many hours, or I'm going to deliver this much work, and you're going to pay me this much money. You make money, you don't make money, not my problem. It really isn't. That's not what an employee works with you for. They're not interested in whether or not you're making money. And so it's really, it puts a lot of pressure on you to, as a home-based entrepreneur, as a self-employed person, to do things that make money, regardless of how many hours it ends up taking you to do it. Regardless of if you have to roll up your sleeves and actually pick up the work that other people didn't do, because that's what you end up doing. Honestly, like I've been doing work recently on something that I paid good money for somebody else to do, but they don't have the fire under their ass to get this thing out by the deadline, and I do. And so I'm doing the work that they're supposed to have done today. They were like, I'm gonna go work on this thing now. Are you inside the document? I'm like, yeah, it's finished. Don't worry about it. So it was like, huh, really? But are you sure? Like, yeah, it's done. I finished it. Like, what the hell? I'm gonna sit around waiting for you to finish it? It's just, you end up working harder. And if you weren't self-motivated, and if you don't have that fire under you to do that work, then if you're lazy in your employment, you're going to be lazy as an entrepreneur, and you're not going to have success. If you're a crappy employee, you're going to make a crappy entrepreneur. That's the reality of it. So yeah, I might not have had a 9-to-5 in my life, but I have always been self-motivated. I always worked hard. I always, knew my responsibilities and didn't wait for somebody to tell me what to do, even from when I was a child. And that is why this line of business, this line of work is the most suitable for me. The question is it most suitable for you? Do you work well on your own? Do you produce more when you're working for yourself? Are you hardworking or are you lazy? These are questions you gotta ask yourself and be real with your answers. Look at your work ethic and in your employment. How are you when working for other people? Are you honest? Do you put in a full day's work? Do you turn up on time? Do you get all the work that you're supposed to do? Do you get it done? Do you take responsibility? Because in the end, if you don't have those traits to start with, you're not going to start having them because now you don't have supervision. If the only way that you perform is under supervision, then you're not going to be able to perform without it. So, ask yourself those questions and decide if this home-based business thing is for you, or maybe it's not.